Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This will be the fourth video on the series of our Western Mediterranean cruise. This video is part 2 of our excursion in Rome. After leaving Trevi Fountain, we believed we were headed for lunch. Instead, we had one more surprise on the way. The Victor Emmanuel II National Monument was built between 1885 and 1935 to honor Victor Emmanuel II, the first king of a unified Italy. For the rest of our tour, the amazing sights would just keep coming. Directly across the street is Trajan's Forum and Column. The column was built in 113 AD. Of course, originally the column was topped with a bronze statue of the Emperor Trajan. However, that was lost sometime in the Middle Ages. Since 1587, it has been topped with a bronze statue of St. Peter. Directly adjacent to Trajan's Forum is the Forum of Augustus, of course built by the Emperor Augustus Caesar from 27 BC to 14 AD. The centerpiece of the Forum would have been this temple to Mars ULTOR, which means Mars the Avenger. This is an artistic rendition of how the temple would have looked in its heyday. I'm just showing you this clip because as a Jeep owner, I felt it was very interesting that the security forces here at the Forum were using an American Jeep. Oh, and yes, scooters are everywhere in Rome. After lunch, which by the way was included in the cost of the excursion, we headed out to the Roman Forum. As we exited the restaurant, what you see before you is the Torre de' Conti, a tower built in the year 1238, so not really all that old by the standards of Rome. Located literally across the street is the entrance to the Roman Forum. For centuries, the Forum was the center of day-to-day life in Rome. It was the site of everything from triumphal processions to criminal trials to gladiator matches, and was the center of commercial affairs. Soon after entering, this very impressive structure appears. It is the temple of Antoninus and Faustina. This temple was constructed by the Emperor Antoninus to honor his late wife Faustina the Elder around the year 141 AD. After the emperor's death, his successor Marcus Aurelius had the temple rededicated to both of them. This is how the temple appears now, and the next picture is how it appeared in its heyday. The structure's survival to this day is mostly due to the fact it was later converted into a Catholic church. Here are the remnants of a temple built on the site of one of the most famous assassinations in history. For on this site, Julius Caesar was assassinated in 44 BC. And to this day, some Italians still bring flowers and coins to the site. Here is a rendition of what the temple would have looked like upon its completion in 29 BC. Nearby are the ruins of the Temple of Saturn, originally constructed around the year 500 BC. The temple had to be repaired and reconstructed several times during the Roman Empire. The ruins you see now were completed around the year 360 AD. The Arch of Septimus Severus was built to commemorate that emperor's victories over the Parthian Empire in an area what is now known as Mesopotamia. After the emperor's death, his two sons, Caracalla and Geta, became co-emperors. Well, that is until Caracalla had Geta assassinated. As we move down the Forum, the next major structure that comes into sight is the Temple of Romulus, constructed in 309 AD by the Emperor Maxentius. The temple was dedicated to his son Romulus, who died at a very young age. Bronze doors on the front of the temple are apparently original to 309 AD. The reason the temple has survived to this day was in 527 AD, the temple was rededicated and made part of a Catholic basilica. Next we have the very well maintained Arch of Titus, completed by the Emperor Domitian, his younger brother, in 81 AD. Arch commemorates the victory of the Emperor Titus in the War of the Jews, or the Jewish Rebellion, in 72 AD. The interior panels depict scenes from the victory procession held after the fall of Jerusalem. The scenes depict artifacts taken from the temple in Jerusalem, including a menorah. Be sure and check out our videos on our trip through Israel, which include more information on the fall of Jerusalem as well as Masada. I will leave links in the description below. The next stop on our tour of the Roman Forum are the remains of the Temple of Venus in Roma, completed by the Emperor Hadrian around the year 135 AD. Here's the current status of this temple, and the next picture is how it would have looked upon its completion. Leaving the Temple of Venus in Roma, a modern visitor gets just a taste of what a Roman citizen would have seen leaving the temple to get a view of the Colosseum. Of course, the Roman Colosseum is one of the most famous structures on earth and is the image that comes to most people's mind when we think of the city of Rome. Directly adjacent to the Colosseum is the Arch of Constantine. Dedicated to the Roman Emperor Constantine the Great, it is the largest Roman triumphal arch. One interesting fact about the Arch of Constantine is many of the decorations and monuments were recycled from older monuments. In many cases, the face or likeness of Constantine was simply added to it. As impressive as the structure currently is, one must remember that only about 1/3 of the original Colosseum is still standing. And here's a model of what it would have originally looked like. One feature of the Colosseum that really surprised me were all these holes in the columns. When originally constructed, the columns had iron bands around them or other ironworks. Of course, over the centuries, this ironworks have been pilfered and used in other projects. When the ironworks were removed, the holes were left behind. Similar fate awaited the stonework from the Colosseum as well as the other monuments in the Roman Forum. In the centuries after the fall of Rome, the stonework was reclaimed and reused for other projects, including St. Peter's Basilica. At least for me, walking into the interior of the Colosseum brought to mind everything that took place there during the Roman Empire. The gladiator fights, the Christian executions, the animal combat. All those things rush through your head. The elaborate underground structures were not part of the original construction of the Colosseum. They were added later by the Emperor Domitian. The last Roman games were held here in the year 404 AD. However, for the next century, condemned criminals were still forced to fight wild animals. I do want to thank everyone for watching today. Please be on the lookout for further videos from our Western Mediterranean cruise as well as many other adventures.